Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dr. Unati, your host. I'm back. I am back with my lovely colleague here, Martina Wida. I'm going to tell you shortly about her. Today, we have a wonderful discussion. I'm so excited about this discussion because it's close to my heart. As a Black woman, as a Black professional, I see all these things. I see all this dynamism about race and mental health in Black women. So today, we're going to explore that. Bring your friends, bring your girlfriends, bring your moms, bring your aunts, bring even your white friends. Other women from other races, they need this. So please join in and share the button. Today, we're discussing something very close to my heart. We're talking about mental health in Black women. We're talking about racism in Black women. And of course, how do all these things affect their self-esteem? Without wasting our time, I'm going to introduce our guest, Miss Martina Wida. She is a lady hailing from UK. Thank you so much, Martina, for joining us. I'm going to just quickly read your biases and then we get on it.
Yes.
Thank you. So Miss Martina Wida is a cognitive behavioral therapist, health and well-being consultant, author, resilience trainer, and co-founder of Black Women in Business and Professional Network. Martina has 20 years experience working within the well-being and mental health field in both the private sector and NHS, that's in the UK. Martina delivers transformational, dynamic, and experiential training whilst also having a passion to see individuals thrive holistically in life through being revived, restored, and refocused. She delivers psychological therapy in innovative and accessible ways, including online, that's video and instant messaging, and via telephone. Martina draws upon her life experiences, including bereavements, rejection, stress, to connect and empathize with her clients, whilst sharing how she has successfully navigated adversity and utilized this for transformation and growth. Welcome, sis.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
I know, it's been a long time wanting to connect with you. Thank you so much for joining me. So tell me, you in UK and a Black woman, how does it feel being there? I've been there and I didn't have a good experience, but not everyone gets that.
Right. I think in the UK, it's quite diverse. I live in the north of England where there's less diversity. Whereas if you go to London, there's a lot more diversity. You'll see a lot more Black women. There's probably more Black females in senior roles and in influential positions in the south of the city.
Yes.
But my mindset is that, if you want to create opportunities, if you want to succeed, you've got to find them. Yeah. We experience barriers, we experience opportunities, but it's about your mindset. That's what will determine where you're going to go. That will determine the course of your life. So that is my mindset, a mindset for success and growth.
Love it. But you know what? Actually, my mom was in England for 10 years. That's how she had that mindset too. She had to cross barriers and she loved it. She would love to go back. You know what? Let's talk about racism in the workplace. You work, I do mental health too. How do you navigate that?
So in the workplace, I think globally, we know racism exists, and with the recent Black Lives Matters protests, movement, and also the unlawful murder of George Floyd and many other Black individuals, I think it's just highlighted and amplified. Racism exists globally, whether it's covert, whether it's overt, whether it's kind of institutional racism. It does exist. And recently, I don't know whether you're aware of it in Canada, but in the UK, there's a program called I think it's Britain's Got Talent, and there's a dance troupe, which are the group the kind of mixed race individuals, and what they did is that they did a performance which was based on recent events, based on the death of George Floyd, and it was looking at I guess promoting equality, diversity, and tackling these issues. However, there were a lot of complaints. I think it was at least 20,000. So I highlight that to convey and to demonstrate that racism exists. It exists in the UK, whether you want to believe it or not. It exists, it's rife, and we have to, as Black individuals, males, females, we have got to change that narrative. And it's important to actually acknowledge it. And I think for me personally, more recently, with everything that's happened and then with COVID, it's given me a lot more time to reflect. And it's brought me to this position where I feel like in my career, my profession, that I have to be a voice because I'm a Black psychotherapist. The reality is, I don't know what percentage of Black women or Black and minority ethnic women are in the profession. There's not many. So I feel that I have to be a voice for my people, for Black women. And that's just created a lot of opportunities. Recently I was delivering some training on looking at uncovering unconscious bias and racism in the consulting room. And the feedback was, it just blew my mind. And some people do want to change, but I feel that we've got to step outside of our comfort zones, put our head above the parapet and embrace our unique strength and our unique experience and use it to benefit the world. And that is what I'm doing now. And that is why I'm here. And it's fantastic.
I'm loving it. You know what, Martina? I actually feel the same way. I actually know that here in Canada, we very few Blacks. I don't necessarily have the stats, but I was looking at the stats in even in the healthcare. In the US, there's 5.7% of healthcare workers. That includes basically, psychotherapists too, among 13% of Black communities. And I want us to talk more, actually, while we're still talking about healthcare. I actually read this article written by a lawyer there who unfortunately had breast cancer. And she went through testing and she was found to have this BRCA gene that would definitely basically confirm that she would have such a risk, breast cancer. And you have an option when you have that gene to go for mastectomy. And she declined in the beginning, all because she was Black. And she's actually highlighting on her article that the only reason she was able to get it is because in her school, there's a friend of a friend who knows an oncologist. Like, why do we have to go through the system like that? And this is not a unique situation. So what are you experiencing in your workplace? How are our Black girls, our Black women navigating all that? Because this is a woman who was fortunate because one, because of her status, she's educated. But we both know that a lot of times our Black women, they don't have such opportunities. They work 2 or 3 jobs. They don't have time to go for screening. Like, how are we going to navigate the system? How are we going to help our women?
I think it's about having a collective voice, acknowledging that these problems exist and actually trying to problem solve together. It's about taking a collective stance, not an individualized stance. And I feel, unfortunately, in the Black community, we can be too individualistic, and that creates barriers and prevents our growth. Whereas we need to come together, whether you're from the Caribbean, Jamaica, wherever, we're all Black, come together. And let's be a force to be reckoned with. Let's pool our resources, let's pool our knowledge and our insight. And that's how we can drive positive change. We need to be we need to be the decision makers. We need to be on the boards. We need to bring our experience. And the research shows that diverse boards are more successful and effective. So visibility is key. We need to be visible. We have a voice, we have knowledge, we've got insights, we are professionals, but we need to just remove fear and just take a chance, take a risk.
So tell me, you mentioned something that we tend to be individualistic. This happens in business too. Why is it that Black people cannot support? You see communities like people from East India, they work together, they do businesses together, they work collectively and they succeed. People from Pakistan. I have friends from all these races, and they went, what is it that we can? What have we not overcome as a people, Black people? What is it that makes us, I want to be in my corner and succeed alone?
I think there's many factors that contribute towards it, but I think, I don't know, I think from my experience, there's just that kind of competitive mindset, and some of it probably is linked to colonialism. I think it's to slavery, unfortunately. I think it's probably linked to that, and the fact that the men and women that were separated. So there's a lack of opportunities for the narrative is division.
Yes.
And I think unfortunately that is the case. But for me, I think probably for the slightly younger generations, they're maybe bringing about more change because they're realizing that actually we are a force to be reckoned with. And last week I was co-hosting an event looking at venture capital investment and looking at grant funding, and most of the people that attended were Black individuals, and some of the companies that were there, they solely focus on providing capital and funding to Black business owners. So that's showing that the narrative is changing, and that's because resources are being pooled together, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you're anti-Black or anti-Asian. It just means that you've got strategy and you've noticed there's a gap in the market, and we need to look at addressing it. We can't wait for other people to address it. We need to be change makers.
You know what? I love that, because let's talk about our motherland, Africa. Women, they are entrepreneurial. They're entrepreneurs. And they need money. They need access to funding. So I'm loving that. I love that. So tell me, what is it that makes this narrative, Black women are strong? It's even within our communities in Black. Let's start about something practical. Men cheating on their wives. And these women will not leave. You are expected even by your in-laws, sometimes by your parents, to stay there. Keep the family together. What is it that makes men, even our Black men, let's not even talk about outsiders, our Black men, what is it? I don't want us to go outside. Let's talk about that. What is it that makes Black men to believe that if I do this to my wife, she's resilient, she'll take it. I can receive emotional and also physical, and this Black woman would still stay here and pull this family together. What is it that makes our men like that? Oh, in general, our community.
I would say it's cultural factors. There's cultural factors. I would say it's that it's patriarchy. There's so many factors that contribute to it. I would say there's also religious factors as well, and the fact that women are viewed as having to be submissive, having to, regardless of what happens, to, I guess, endure and be resilient. And it is that strong Black woman. It's that narrative, that stereotype that we've been fed directly and indirectly. And I guess we've probably observed that maybe in our parents. So we feel that whatever we face, we can overcome it. But I think, we're invincible. But actually, it can seem innocuous, but actually it's dangerous, because when you are facing challenges, it's likely that sometimes you can view it in a negative way if you're struggling. So you're more likely to suppress your emotions, you're less likely to seek help. And then that will contribute towards you being more stressed, being more susceptible to developing depression. And that's what the research suggests. So I think we've got to look at trying to challenge the narrative. There are positive aspects of it. So for me personally, I endorse and I embrace the strong Black woman narrative. However, we need to acknowledge that there needs to be a bit more flexibility with it, because it can be quite rigid and it can create obstacles, and you can be quite self-sabotaging. It can cause you to isolate yourself as well when you are struggling, because that narrative, or those core beliefs that you've grown up with, are being challenged. And then if you can't attain this persona of being strong, then the antithesis is that, well, if I'm not strong, it means I'm weak. And And I'm sharing this from my experience.
Right.
You know, my inner narrative and dialogue when I've experienced challenges and maybe I've not bounced back as quickly as I would have hoped to, my inner dialogue would be that maybe it means you're weak. But fortunately, because I'm self-aware and I've got tools to challenge that narrative, it didn't lead me to it didn't contribute to a negative outcome, but that's because I've got the narratives and the tools. But for those who don't have the tools, it can cause you to become stuck. It can cause you to maybe, you know, demonstrate self-hatred or start maybe self-medicating to cope.
Yes.
So many negative experiences that can result as a consequence of that strong Black woman narrative. We are superwoman, we're undefeatable. But you know, we are humans. That strong Black woman narrative, in some respects, can dehumanize us as people, as a race.
Yes.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be emotional. Yes. It is.
Yes. And it's a learned behavior, like you were saying. You know, I remember coming to Canada too. I came with my 16-month-old child, and I had exams to take here. I had to adjust to the weather, to the culture. You know, I mean, I was used to working with white people, but in my community, my province, I was mostly Black, and my patients were always Black, right?
Right.
Such an adjustment for me. And I remember, honestly, I was here for years before my partner was able to join us. And I remember listening sometimes to other women, like white women would be like, you know, my husband is working out of town. I'm not coping. I've got this child or have these children. And I would think in my head, and you know what? Again, downplaying those symptoms that she's because I am personally coping. And I'm like, why would you not cope? He's out of town for 3 days, 5 days. Here am I. I'm here for another year without him. I'm saying it in my head. I'm not going to say it to my patient. But again, it goes back to the narrative we were fed, like you were saying, as kids. We are strong. We are told to be strong, and we don't seek the help. And actually, to be honest, I ended up with high blood pressure. It was because I had headaches to go and check my pressure, and it was very high. Why did I? My body eventually told me that, honey, you are not coping alone here. Right? So again, it's that strong narrative. Let's go back to that statement, because I want us to talk about it now. Moving to the Western world, I'm seeing more and more Black women seeking help. You know, and you know, when I listen to their stories, someone will say, you know, I felt this way, and they are describing depression, and we both know that back home in Africa, no one really defines what depression is.
No.
You know what I mean? And I was surprised in a country like Nigeria, the last time I checked, they have less than 500 psychiatrists for that big country. Right? Yes. So it's a struggle. So these women come to us and tell us that, you know what, I've felt this low for as long as I could remember. Yes. So it is happening. It's out there. So how do we help change our old folks back home, or even here? Because we see it even in Europe. People who are hang on to they hang on to that culture of we are strong. Like, I mean, even our grandparents, they live abroad. How do we change their mindset? How do we do that?
I would say it's about challenging the stigma which is associated with mental health, because it's not really spoken about. And if I think about me, like I remember going, like when I was a lot younger, my background is my parents are from Jamaica. So I remember going to Jamaica when I was younger, and there was a man he was clearly psychotic, just in the street. And I guess the terminology that people use is that he's a madman. So just that in itself is not going to encourage you to explore your emotions. So I think it's about creating safe spaces for men and women to come together to talk about emotions and feelings, and to acknowledge how being an immigrant, or parents who are immigrants, acknowledging how being a minority individual, how that, and possibly experiencing racism, how that will have an impact on your mental health, whether you like it or not. And being accepting of it, not seeing it as something negative, and knowing that it's something that can be managed and that can be addressed, just as physical health can be treated mental health, emotional health. It's no different.
It's no different. You know what? I actually just, now that you're mentioning that, creating that community, I just created a community of bringing men. It doesn't matter which race you belong to, men, and we discuss for an hour men's health. It's been beautiful.
Right, that's fantastic.
Yes, and it's such a vulnerable group, and they come in from all walks of life.
Yeah,
they're so vulnerable, and they are talking out their emotions. It's been the questions they are asking, and some of them, they're still feeling uncomfortable. They're asking their questions anonymously, but they're asking the questions. It's such a really with our community, and it's beautiful how even at work, I'm starting to see even male patients, Black men, coming crying and say, "Doc, I feel depressed." They want something, like, how can you help me? Like, they cry. That's another thing about us. As much as women, do you see a lot of crying in Black women when they come see you?
If I'm being honest, I would say some. But in the UK, I've worked in the mental health field for over 20 years.
Right.
Not many. I've worked with Black individuals, but I would say not many come through the traditional routes because of the stigma associated. I'm seeing more recently, and I think that's probably because myself as a Black therapist, I'm more visible.
Yes.
And I get referrals from private companies, and then I'm seeing that there's more it's Black females. And I think I probably work with more females because men, they tend not to express their emotions. I think it's even more difficult for them, regardless of the cultural background. And then in the UK, the suicide rates for men are just horrific.
Yes.
There's just so many factors that are contributing towards it. But I've noticed, as I've been getting more connected with organizations and individuals who are passionate about Black mental health, I'm discovering that actually there are organizations out there that are focusing on Black men's mental health.
Yes. You know what? I love that, because I sometimes feel people moving from their countries, coming for greener pastures, obviously, people, the political situations, the atmosphere back home. Some people from other, like, different African countries move to these countries, and they think things will be better, and it becomes lonesome. People also discriminated against their language, their accents. Even though you cannot express it. One time I had to call into order one lady who was impatient with a guy who was in front of us at a bank, because this poor guy was trying to express himself to the teller. And fortunately enough, the teller was patient enough to listen to this guy. But a white lady behind me was so impatient, and I had to turn around. I said, "Honey, imagine yourself placed in the middle of Somalia. I just came to the country, or like any other country that speaks maybe Arabic. I was just coming to any country. How would you feel? And you want a service like this man." You know what? I kind of thought, think about it a little bit, because sometimes people don't think about, and you know what? This is our human nature. We don't think about our actions sometimes. So like you're saying, it's quite important as Black women or as Black men, when we get such opportunities, let's educate people that we meet, because people that grew up with a privilege, sometimes they're not even aware. I'm starting to talk about it with my patients. I've seen also kids coming into my practice asking their parents, "Where is the doctor?" And I'm like, "I'm the doctor." And this part is not necessarily racist, but it's not talked about. And you know what? I'm yet to receive a response from one of our TV stations. I wrote a very long email saying, "Start bringing us to your TVs. We have a long list of professionals in this community, in this city. Bring us on," so that also kids, because kids watch TV. If they don't see us, indeed, they will think I'm a nurse, right? Yes. You know what I mean?
It's very true.
It is true. So tell me about the workspace. Go ahead, sis.
I was just going to say, it's some of these experiences which can have an adverse effect on our mental health as well. But I feel that probably sometimes because there's that strong Black woman narrative, you just overlook these things, you minimize them.
Yes,
I can deal with that, but actually it can have a cumulative effect.
I just told you I had blood pressure.
That's it. And we don't realize. I think for me personally, over the past 6 months with COVID, having more time to reflect, and then, you know, the Black Lives Matter process and death of George Floyd and everything associated with it, it's just helped me to reflect and allowed me to see that I have just dismissed and minimized many things.
Yes.
Maybe covert racism, because you just become accustomed to it, and you've got to cope, and you know, you will succeed, and all of that goes back to that strong Black woman mindset, and narrative, which it can help, but it also can be detrimental.
It can be. You know, I was actually talking about COVID-19, looking at the stats in the US, with the deaths. You know, it's more Black, and also you know, it's more Hispanics and Black community. And you wonder, because honestly, these papers are coming out that these people are turned away. They are less likely to have the tests on time. You know, and I mean, we both know that with the history they have, that there's really high history of adverse childhood experiences. So there's more diseases, there's more OPDs, there's more high blood pressure, there's more diabetes, causing these people to have this risk of contracting COVID-19, right? So honestly, how do we, and I guess, I mean, with the 5.7% of their Black healthcare workers, how are they going to reach them? You know, tell me, in the UK, do you guys have more outlets like TV, like social media? Because we're using social media, voice for Black people to come up and speak?
I guess it's probably just maybe similar to the US, really. I know since everything that's happened with you know, the Black Lives Matter process, I think I've noticed there's been a lot more new organizations that are popping up. That's what I've noticed, especially on Facebook. But that's what I've noticed, and there's been, I guess, more, a greater sense of unity and cohesion.
Right. That's, you know, even on Facebook, this is the interesting thing. I mean, even with justice, you see interracial relationships on Facebook. Few times I've seen interview between a wife and a husband. Maybe a wife is white and the husband is Black. The same family, but the man who happens to be Black has actually experienced racial issues with the law, like the police would stop him. Like, it's so terrible. I had a friend sharing a story about his kids who were in the same community. They grew up there. Suddenly, police were called on these kids because they were walking around apparently not belonging to such a community. Right? Where are we going to live? I mean, honestly, with the opportunities we're getting, we also advancing ourselves. We will in areas where probably we weren't supposed to be there. You know, I mean, never experienced that personally. I mean, there is racism. It's quite violent, you know, but I mean, you see it. I mean, I have colleagues or maybe friends who work in the government who have experienced it. Actually, let's talk about the workspace. We don't see lots of Black women in leadership roles. They come to UK, have the education in UK, get the accent like Martina, but we don't see Martina's up there. Like, come on, Martina, you have your education, you have the master, like, you know what I mean? So how come we're not seeing lots of you guys up there?
It's the lack of role models, and the fact that there is an underrepresentation. It contributes to your feeling that you're actually not invited or welcome to the table, or you may arrive at that place, but you don't stay there.
Right.
Because you don't feel that you can be your authentic self.
Right.
Or if you are there, I mean, some of these are generalizations. If you are in that position, then maybe you feel like, or some individuals feel like you can't fully embrace your culture.
Wow. I mean, women have been bashed for their hair, you know that.
Yeah.
Best for their hair. I mean, the way they dress. Recently in South Africa, I'm from South Africa, there was actually, it went viral. So this one store, do you guys have a Roots there? Like your store Roots? Is it? But anyways, it's more like it's a cosmetics store. I don't remember the UK big store. Yes. But anyways, it's more like that, very big store. And they compared the straight hair, the weave, as the best manageable, and then they compared it to our hair, which is damaged and ugly. You know what I mean? But you know what? I took offense a little bit on that, but I had to reflect on it. Reason being, maybe it's about time we embrace our hair. It's about time. For me, what was the lesson for me there was, yes, now they are seeing that we embrace their straight hair more. So what are we teaching our little girls? Right? To me, it meant this is an aha moment. This is awakening that, yes, the world sees you. You do not embrace your hair, and hence they have such audacity to say such.
Yes. Oh gosh, that's awful. Yeah. And that will just have, or can have, a negative impact on your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-image. And I know for I don't have children, but my friend who's she was telling me about her daughter and how she's having to educate her about her hair, show her videos of black children with the same hair, because her daughter's wondering, why is my hair not like my friend's hair?
Exactly. Yes.
So you need to start early, and it's about role models and representation again, and providing children with black dolls with afro hair.
Absolutely. I've done that. 2 years. You know what? I mean, I'm guilty of using that weave, but to me, when that advert came out, it gave me such an awakening that, you know what? It's about time you embrace your hair. And you don't need it to be straight. This is how God created it. It that way. And I'm growing my afro underneath this braid. Honestly, that's what. And unfortunately, I have not used a chemical for 10 years now.
Right.
So tell me, Martina, so how do we move forward as Black women? How do we empower? Because again, we see all these organizations, the sisterhood, but like, I mean, I'm glad to say I do belong to groups, like even in business, but there's not many. There's not many, even in business, women like racing each other. Like, how are we going to help it? And again, it goes back to what you were saying. There's that individualistic. You still see. 2 days ago, I was talking to a friend who happens to sell products from Africa. She said to me, instead of my girlfriends supporting my business, instead they're like, you know what? You selling your beans? I'm going for my beans too. I'm bringing them along. I'm going to sell them too. Like, how do we help each other? How do I embrace Martina with her beans without me wanting to grab it and want the beans that she's selling?
It's that mindset shift that needs to happen. I think it's important that people need to focus on. It's not competition, it's collaboration. Working together. Competition is healthy. Competition can allow you to grow and expand and diversify what you're offering. So for me, I'm a co-founder of Black Women in Business and Professional.
Yes.
That's what we promote. It's about collaboration. So last week, when I was co-hosting an event with, another, she's a financial professional, but she's also, an event, runs an event management consultancy. So and she also runs a Black Excellence Network. She's based in London. I'm in the North. So we collaborated together on that event. And it's about acknowledging that together we are stronger.
Yes. You cannot be an island. You cannot be an island.
No, not at all.
Since I started going into business, I am so much growing because of the collabs. You are meeting these women with so much, because me as a clinician, I don't know much about, business. I had to learn all that because I'm collaborating with other sisters, and it's been a wonderful ride for me.
You
know what, Martina? Tell me, how do we move forward, right? How do we move forward, embracing each other, and also teaching other women and also our girls that are growing? What advice would you give young women who are in university, college? Because I'm starting to see even university students they're starting to do each other's hair, you know, that embracing each other's hair, and also even other businesses, small businesses, how do we move forward, like helping each other, you know?
I would say it's just about looking for opportunities, thinking how you can collaborate, because it happens in the business world, and the research and science shows that when you do collaborate, when you partner with organizations, you're going to be more successful and effective because you're bringing different skill sets together. But it's about having business and strategy. So, for example, in the UK, in the areas where there's a high concentration of Black businesses, or I'll say Black restaurants, or, you know, barbershops, it's about acknowledging that that's okay for that to be the case, but then each business needs to find their niche. So there can be multiple restaurants, but what are you going to offer different? Right. Or how can you collaborate and maybe offer another service together?
Yes,
it's a mindset shift. And I think, unfortunately, that sometimes there's a lack of strategy. And for me personally, I'm learning that, you know what, I am owning my owning who I am, and I'm being more confident in my skill set, and acknowledging that, yes, I'll just be honest, you know, I am a psychotherapist, and, you know, I work with people from all backgrounds. But what I'm realizing probably over the past 6 months is that actually my USP is that a lot of Black individuals, or even people from minority ethnic backgrounds, because of, you know, racism and other things that have been amplified, that they would prefer to possibly work with someone from an ethnic minority background. So I am now embracing that as something that I have that's unique, and that I can offer something different to my white counterparts. Whereas in the past I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I want to work with everyone. But in business, you've got to niche. That's when you're more successful. And that's what I'm learning, and I'm owning that now. But I work with everyone, you know, but you've got to follow your passions, and you've got to have that business mindset strategy. See where are the gaps in the market?
Yes.
And how can you contribute something unique? And when I was preparing for today's session, doing my research and everything, and the literature shows that in the UK, in terms of females that experience common mental health problems, so depression and anxiety, in any given week, this was the research was done in 2014, 29% of Black women in the UK experience common mental health problems. So that's higher than the stats, which suggest that 1 in 4 people will experience common mental health problems. Then it's about 28% for mixed individuals. Then it reduces, I think it's 23% for Asian, 20% for white individuals, and about 16% for white other. So there is a need, because Black women, unfortunately, and mixed, the stats are very close. Our mental health, common mental health, is more compromised because we're experiencing racism, we're experiencing lots of other factors. Also in the Black community, there's more single women, so the stress, different loneliness. We know that if you're single, you know, you're more likely to struggle with your mental health. So it's just about acknowledging this and trying to be a solution.
Yes. You know what? Mentioning mental health, being single, and also we both know living abroad, it brings a lot of new culture, right? New communities. Like, I mean, I struggled in the beginning, even fitting into churches, because I'm used to my loud, you know, vibe and rhythm. Those things as Africans, as Jamaicans, like we are all Africans, to us, that rhythm, that sound says something to my mental.
Oh, yes, it's important.
Yes. You know, now talk about our Black communities. I have a practice. I have more white patients. Our Black communities don't come to our practice. Like they literally don't. One, basically because people are scared to talk about their issues, even to their black sister.
Yes.
People
Yes.
are scared that you're gonna talk. And I mean, we are taught confidentiality. You understand? So we still need to go into our communities and educate people that I understand you better. Like I'm not saying my counterparts would never have a good diagnosis.
Yes.
Really, right? But you still need to get people that mindset of I know you, I know your culture. Do you understand? Like recently, I had a patient who had actually worm infestations, and immediately because he told me he's from Africa, I knew that that's what I saw when I saw back home. Because one, he said in his culture they tend to eat raw meat, right?
Right. Oh wow.
So we had to go deep into that.
Yes.
And he had an opportunity to understand that that could predispose you to worms. Not saying white people or other races would not have worms, but we had an opportunity to go deeper into the culture and even why they eat raw meat in his culture. You understand? So these are the opportunities people would have to explore when they have seen a doctor of their color, right? Understand them better. So opportunities, they kind of bring people to be themselves and be authentic and share these experiences. Because I never knew that people do that, but he shared that, and we corrected it in an unjudgmental way. But he got to understand the consequences of eating that, right? So tell me, the self-esteem, you mentioned self-esteem. I'm actually, I'm always keen to educate kids and all that as a mom on that, right? Most especially as a minority, because our kids, recently there's 2 children in my community, not really in my community. One just died of suicide. And one, yes. Last year we had a 9-year-old Syrian kid who, bullying. How are you? Are you in that space, schools?
So I work with young people as well. Yeah, I work across the board.
Right.
Yeah, bullying, unfortunately, it is, it is pervasive. And that does, as we know, it does affect someone's self-esteem because it causes you to question your identity. And there's that sense of otherness and difference. And I work with young people who have got neurodevelopmental difficulties, so ADHD and ASD, alongside the common mental health difficulties. So in terms of addressing that, if there's any parents who are listening, it's about, I guess, praising and rewarding your children.
Yes.
So there's that sense of self-acceptance. Yes. And even acceptance of your identity. If you are from a minority or ethnic group, that you are loved, you are beautiful. Yes. All cultures are beautiful. And it's about being a role model. I think being conscious of our own, of our narrative and of what, I guess, of what we're discussing in front of our children, because they pick all of that up, don't they? So I think that's really important. And then also racism, unfortunately, that will contribute to your self-esteem being affected. Yes.
Depression. I mean, this 15-year-old, like 2 weeks ago, she committed suicide. A black kid who was bullied in a Catholic school. Yeah. And apparently there was also about her hair, all that kind of stuff. So right. It's about time as mothers, as fathers, we embrace who we are, and also our children to learn from us, right?
Yeah.
What? I love this conversation, and it's coming to an end soon, but I want us to give an opportunity to our viewers here. There's some comments here.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Yes. So Haida says, I guess he's saying hi. Bobby says, Madam, please help me. My head is very tired. You know what, Bobby? You need to see your health professional. You need to definitely, that head is tired. I would like to explore more of it, right, Martina?
Yes. And I think with it's interesting that he shares that. I know a lot of the literature says that for a kind of black and minority ethnic individual, if this is what is suggested, sometimes we tend to focus on our physical symptoms.
Yes.
And sometimes don't make the connection between the physical and our psychological, and the mental,
Yes. You know what? It's actually interesting that Bobby is saying he's tired, because a lot of times black men, when they come with depression, You probably in your practice, they come with headaches, right?
Yes.
They come with, doc, I have back pain, I have stomach pain. You know, they come with all these physical symptoms.
Yes, and sleep.
And
yes,
sometimes they have aggression and violence. That's why we're fighting gender-based violence. So, man, I would love, Babi, definitely see your doctor or your psychologist, your counselor, seek help so that you can explore those symptoms. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, more Honorable Ololula Julo says, Grand Rising Kings and Queens. Absolutely. Let's rise. Be one.
Yes. Yes.
Father. You know, Ndolo Yang says, yes, Mama, it's all about mindset. Each one, teach one. Love that.
Definitely.
Yes, we need to do that collaboration. David Nabuara says he's in the house. I know Dave. We work together a lot. El Khalil says, Grand Rising from California Bay Area. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
Community here. Nathaniel says, rise up, my sisters, positive mental attitude, reparations, and cultivating self-reliance. Love that. Yes. Working together, self-reliant, but also don't be an island.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
I love the fact that being African, we are taught to have that the extended family units. You know, are you seeing that dissipating in in UK? Because we are raising our children abroad. They don't get to see their. I mean, we're starting to see grandparents, adoptive grandparents, where we are not many. Yes, it's there.
I would say in the UK, it varies. It varies. I think it's more to do with the younger community, maybe probably. Is it Gen Z and not millennials, or maybe millennials and below, maybe rejecting it in some way, not viewing it as important.
Really?
That's I think, but I think it depends. But I think there's more. I think for some individuals, there's more of a focus on assimilation into the British culture.
Yes. Guess what? In Africa too, though. You know, I was talking to a friend who lives in Johannesburg, and I was actually impressed with how her kids, they have these neighbors they play with, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. You know, in my community, sometimes we live in these bubbles. You don't know your neighbor. Yes, you say hello. Yes, like your kids are in the same age group, they will play together, but otherwise your child has to go to the other side to play with his friend or her friends. And I said, you know, it's so hard because my mom does not live in Canada. And she said, actually, a lot of my friends and my colleagues are experiencing that here in South Africa because they go once a year home. Things have changed. People migrated. Bigger cities. So yeah, things have changed really. One of my colleagues here, Zoliswa Ezo, she says, I'm listening. She's awesome. I've heard it 3 times here. And she said, I'm loving the conversation, my friend. Thank you, Zoe. Thanks for support. Zoe is a social worker. She did an amazing content here on single parenting, parental alienation.
Right.
Awesome. Yes. Sutuka says, keep it up, Nati. You are doing a great job. Thank you so much, Sisi. Thank you so much. We're making a difference, right? We're trying to shine in our little corners. Wow.
That's what we've got to do. Try and make, have an impact in your world.
Absolutely. Yes. The little we do, it ripples, right?
It does. And it's about being role models, being a role model for the younger generation. And realizing that we can be change makers.
Yes. You know what? Go ahead.
Yes. No, we can be change makers, and we have influence, and not being afraid, and just embracing it and running with it.
Rolling with it. You know what? I loved our Miss World. Zosie is South African, as you know. She said, take up the space. I'm taking up the space. We have a voice, we have the same intelligence.
Yes.
The role models. I'm even actually, I was talking to few leaders, like a few heads of these societies, that guys, we need a community where we'll bring together us professionals, let's come and talk to our children. They need to see a Black doctor. They need to see a Black nurse, a Black teacher, a Black psychologist, psychotherapist. They need to see these things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like you said, there's no role models.
Yeah.
There's no
the long-term impact upon it is it's extremely negative, and it puts you at a disadvantage. It really does. And I'm in the process of setting up an organization that is looking purely at Black mental health and online platforms for pooling resources together it's mainly because of the stigma. The Black community are not going to talk to their doctor or white doctor about the mental health, unfortunately. So, I'm like, okay, I will be that change. Create an online platform where the resources are, where you can signpost, and it's global. So there's just so many resources. So
I'm so happy for that, because I was actually listening to one of my clients talking about their beliefs. Sometimes truly, again, going to a person who understands your culture is very fundamental, because some people, they believe they're feeling unwell because there is some evil spirit.
Yes.
There's that culture, I used to enjoy reading on anthropology on how really our cultures influence our thoughts and how and honestly, you need that person who's going to understand you. So otherwise, live in this space, headspace, without exploring these thoughts and living in fear of not coming up front, right? So Hera says, I'll stay tuned in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in closure, Miss Marina, tell us, what can these viewers take home? We have viewers who want to take something home and implement in their community. Yes.
So is that in terms of their mental health or in?
Yes. Yeah. What they can take home, like in terms of also wanting to show up and taking place.
I would say, you know what? Take a risk. Nothing grows in comfort zones. It's time to get out of your comfort zone. Believe in yourself and just take one day at a time. Change is daily. Take one day at a time. Every day, do something that you wouldn't have done. And it's okay not to be okay. If you are struggling emotionally, if you're feeling stressed, that's okay. Welcome to the club. I feel stressed. It's normal.
Yes, you are not weak. Whether you're a man or a woman, you are not weak. Acknowledge emotions. Love it.
Yeah, and talk more. Find someone that you can confide in. And if you want something to change in your life, in any aspect, you've got to do something different.
Love it.
Nothing is going to change if you just continue with your daily routines and habits. You're not going to improve. You're not going to develop. Your emotional health isn't going to develop. You're not going to achieve those goals. So it's time to get out of your comfort zone, to take a risk and to start changing and to focus on the opportunities that lie before you.
Yes.
Don't focus on the obstacles. Focus on the opportunities. We're limitless. We are limitless. That's my belief. We are limitless.
I love it. I love it, Martina, because the way other cultures open up when you start talking about your experiences. So really, had you not started that conversation, they will not have that experience, right?
Yes.
So indeed, I'm also loving the fact that we're starting to see even other cultures embracing our jewelry, our outfits.
Oh, yes.
What? Yes. Actually, Japan, we're going to set up actually a space where African queens will explore and also showcase whatever businesses they have, showcase their outfits, their, all that stuff. We need to see that because I think as a people generally worldwide, we need to embrace each other. It's beautiful. We are all on the table. Yes. Oh, I'm loving it.
Definitely.
Let's see. Someone says something here. Okay, no, nothing. This brings us to the end of our conversation, sis. Thank you so much. I would like to bring you back because I honestly would love for our Black children to see people like us exploring these issues. Guys, thank you so much for watching this program. Next week, actually, I'm coming back with a man who's going to explore men issues.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much, Martina. We'll talk.
Thank you. It's been